Welcome to the TPC Desktop Getting Started video series. In this video series, we've entered a deed description for a lot. We've entered some field data from a total station that tied a couple corners of a building. And now we want to come out and tape around that building and enter that in Traverse PC and show it on the drawing. Well, let's start by looking at our Traverse Manager here. Here's our deed data traverse. I'm going to go ahead and just delineate that for us so we can see that traverse in the drawings. And then here's our field data traverse. So we want to delineate that one. And we can see that here's the ties that we took from southeast lot corner for that property. And now we want to come in and tape around the house, starting with the two corners that we tied. Now there are lots of ways to start this traverse for the house foundation, and we have a section in one of the learning guides that talks about all the different ways to start a traverse. In this situation, I like to use the drawing points here, points 100 and points 101, to get started. So I'm going to come into the drawing view, right-click any blank spot, and choose Add Points to Traverse. I'm going to give the traverse a name, tell Traverse PC that I want to append it to the end of the other traverses. And then for the traverse view format, I'm going to choose one called Foundation, and you'll see why in just a moment. For the drawing settings, I'm going to choose one called Foundations, and it's basically going to come in and tell Traverse PC that I just want a dashed line without any annotations around it. Okay, so just a real kind of simple format to use. And then this is important. I want to select existing survey points as my method of adding points to this traverse. And I'm going to leave the traverse open when we're done. So let's click OK. And I follow the prompts at the bottom of the drawing view that simply say left click the next object. So I'm going to left click point 100. Traverse PC has opened this traverse for me back here. Just drag that over so you can see it. I'm going to come back to my drawing view, and I'm going to left click point 101. So I've just added those 2 points to this house traverse, and Traverse PC has already started drawing that for me. Kind of neat. When I'm done selecting those 2 points, I just press the Enter key to end that command in the drawing view. So now let's come back to our traverse here. Again, I like the single line per point. And Traverse PC has recalled points 100 and 101 from my field data traverse. So this establishes the position and the orientation of the foundation on the lot. So kind of all that busy work is just done for me. Now, I'm going to, in the traverse view, press the down arrow key and come over and label this first point H102. So it just is a reminder to me via the point label that it's a house foundation point, and I'm just using the next point number 102. Now, the easiest way for me to enter taping data is with deflection angles. And so I can just say minus 90 for a left turn, minus or positive 90 for a right turn. I'm also going to come back into my traverse view format and say I don't need to include azimuth in the edit sequence because I've already established the orientation from points 100 and 101. So it's just going to make it a little easier for me to enter the data as I go here if I turn that off. So let's enter our first deflection angle, minus 90, and our first distance, which is 20 feet. And I see that Traverse PC turns that angle, so I'm going left now, enters the distance of 20 feet, and sets me up for the next point, 103. So again, I'm just putting my head down with my taping data and entering data, and Traverse PC is drawing it for me. Let's go minus 90 for 40 feet. Let's go minus 90 for 16 feet. Let's go 45. So I'm going around some kind of a little feature here. Minus 45 for 12. Minus 45 for 8 again. 45 for 8. And then I'm going to close out with minus 90 for 60. So basically, I started at point 101 with a tape and just started taping around the foundation of this house. It's not overly complicated, but came back around using that taped information to point 100, which in my taping notes was the same as H110. And generally the first thing that I do when I enter foundation information like this is that I come up here to the toolbar and I go to the closure view. And again, Traverse PC uses that tolerance setting to say, oh, you've closed back close enough so I know that this is a closed loop. And the great thing about a closed loop then is that it gives me my error summary. And I'm particularly interested in the linear error here. So I can come back and say, can I live with that error, or do I need to go back and check my data entry, or do I need to go back and remeasure something there? And it's really your call. The first thing I'm going to do in every situation, if I have a linear error, I'm going to come back and check my numbers and just look down through my numbers again and say, was that 20 feet, 30, like that? See how that works? And then if I had something that I entered incorrectly, it would be pretty easy for me to come in and say, oh, well, you know, I should have changed that distance just a little bit because I entered it wrong. And I can certainly overtype that here. Or I might say, you know what, that's close enough. I can live with that just the way it is. Now, the last thing I want to do before I leave this is that I've already annotated the lines on the property. I might want to do the same thing with these house lines. So I'm just going to double click any of the lines that are drawn, and I'm going to go to control points and tell Traverse PC that I want the distance outside. Okay. I can also specify how many decimals for distance, and then I just choose OK. And Traverse PC now has labeled those distances for me, and of course I can come in and move those around whatever I want to do. And we'll work with these a little bit more when we go to finish up the drawing, but it lets me see what I did right away while I'm working with the data.